everyone. Welcome to the Wide Open Wonders podcast. I'm your host, Katie Cook, and I've got Jupiter here with me. She's wanting to sit on my lap while I do this. Welcome to everybody watching on YouTube, listening on Stitcher, iHeart, and iTunes. However you got here today, I'm just so excited that you're here. Look, my hubby got me these cute little alien earrings. He knows me so well. Thank you, hubby. Today I'm really excited. We have Jim Penniston on the show, of course from the very famous Rendlesham Forest incident that happened in late December 1980 in Suffolk, England. That's about 70 miles northeast of London. Very significant UFO case for many reasons. It's actually known as the UK Roswell. I think it was Nick Pope that came up with that. I first heard about it from Linda Moulton Howe, investigative journalist extraordinaire. I heard her talk about it at a UFO conference many, many years ago. So I've known about Jim for a long time. Was very excited to finally get a chance to meet him and talk to him about this very famous and very significant case. There were multiple witnesses in this case. It's a military-related event for anyone who doesn't know much about it. Jim was a staff sergeant with top secret clearance, working security at the twin bases of RAF Bentwaters and RAF Woodbridge in Suffolk. Those are just a few miles apart from each other. And this incident, as a side note, happened during the height of the Cold War. Some people think it's not exactly a coincidence that there was this very significant UFO encounter during that time in that area. Right now, as far as I know, the twin bases are, they're no longer active as military facilities. They're known simply as Bentwaters Park. There's a Bentwaters Cold War Museum. Actually, RAF Woodbridge, I think, is still used by the UK military Ministry of Defense for training exercises. But you should know that from 1951 to 1993, the twin bases played a very, very big role in keeping Western Europe safe and defending Western Europe. But again, I said it was at the height of the Cold War around the time of this incident, and supposedly there was a CIA report suggesting that the Soviet military, that they were mobilizing for an invasion. So a lot of tension at the time. But Jim was just doing his job the morning of this event. I think it actually happened on Boxing Day, which is the day after Christmas, of course, in England. He was investigating a possible downed aircraft. What happened next obviously changed his life forever. He didn't just see a craft in the forest. He was able to get up close enough to actually touch the craft. He saw symbols that he said looked like hieroglyphics. And then it's almost like he was downloaded with this information, this code. It was all zeros and ones, and he felt compelled to write them out, and as he wrote them out, he felt better. And so as like a stress relief, he took all these notes, all of this code, but then he didn't know what it was. I think it was actually Linda Moulton Howe years later that looked at it and said, that looks like binary code. And he's made some discoveries about what he thinks this code is that you will hear him talk about in the interview here. But remember, this is a highly respected military guy. He does not strike me as an attention getter. He's not a flashy guy, very unassuming. I'm sure this is the last thing in the world he ever thought he would get famous for. He's written another book about it. He did one book with Nick Pope, and he's written a more recent one with Gary Osborne, the Rendlesham Enigma, Book 1 timeline. And yeah, it's a big book. He's put a lot into this, and we talk about that in the interview as well. He just wanted to give you all the details, really wanted to make you feel like you were there with him, seeing it all the way he saw it. So you definitely want to get a copy of this book and get all of the fine details. But for now, sit back and relax. I really hope you enjoy my interview with Jim. Jim Penniston, hello. How are you?
Hi, how are you doing?
Oh, good. You got your sexy radio voice on.
My
I like
radio
it.
voice. That's called Tired and Out.
I'm not going to wear you out too much, I promise. Hey, right off the top, I want to give a little shout out to this wonderful artist. For those that are actually watching this podcast, not just listening, this is the artwork of Claudio Bergman. You can see he's been working with Travis Walton. These are the Fire in the Sky pictures that he's done, and these are actually signed by Claudio and Travis Walton. So you guys should check that out. And ClaudioBergman.com is the website. So I'd like to give a little shout out to the artist. I think that's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, he's going to be doing work with me.
He is?
Mm-hmm.
That's exciting.
We talked about a couple weeks ago. It was just a good timing to come out here, and he said, well, I'll meet you at the UFO.
Well, look at the synchronicity. I'm giving him a shout out, and I didn't even know he's going to be working with you. That's cool. Yeah. That's the universe working right there.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy.
Yeah, he is. He's really
besides
sweet.
Being very talented.
You have a book out there. Obviously, people can read all about the incident, and I want to make sure people do get the book, because I know you really make people feel like they were there. You really paint the picture for us, don't you?
Well, I'll tell you what. The Rendlesham Enigma book is 702 pages. I'll tell you right now, chapter 3 and 4. It took me 18 months to write 2 chapters. I mean, going back and forth to it, I kept going back and tweaking it because it wasn't exactly how I wanted it explained. Right. And what it is, it's about the actual experience itself. And I'll guarantee you this. By the time you read those 2 chapters, you're going to be exhausted. You're going to be with me. You're in my head. You're thinking what I'm thinking. And you're going to be just as, with the range of emotions I had, from anger to awe to scared to death. I mean, it's a lot of emotions going on.
Well, it must have been emotional writing that. I mean, having to relive all of that and pull that out.
Yes, it was. I think that's why it took me so long. I kept going back to it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going on with the other chapters, but I kept going back. I tell you, some of the writing is therapy. I mean, it does help. But sometimes, I wanted you guys to be with me, the reader, right beside me, right with me, understanding what was in front of me or not understanding. And I think I achieved that. I'll leave it up to the readers. I don't want to tell you that I've achieved it or not.
I appreciate that about you. I've watched a lot of your interviews, and I've seen you speak at different conferences. I like your honesty. I like when people, especially in the Q&As, when people, because you know how it is, a lot of these conferences and stuff, everybody wants to put you on a pedestal. They want to believe that you have all the answers because you've had the experience. And I think there can be a tendency as the speaker to want to embellish, to want to have all the answers. It's got to be hard, but you'll flat out be like, yeah, I don't know. I know this, I know that, I don't know that. And I just think we all need that. We need truth here. We need that kind of honesty.
And that's the reason really for writing this book. I'll tell you what happened. Well, I did the Encounter book with Nick Pope, great guy. And it was rushed so hard with the New York, it was a New York publisher. I mean, they had deadlines, all this stuff. And so I had went through it, and I had 80 pages that I sent, which were meat and potato items. My co-author now, Gary, had 50 that were going to go in there. And we get to Nick, and Nick says, it's already going to the printers, to be queued. And I said, why didn't you give you the correction list of what's wrong with it? Yeah, so it went out like that. So Nick knows about, I would say 40% of that book is correct, unfortunately. But Nick's advice was, you need to write your own book. And
I admire him.
He's a stand-up guy. Yeah, I really like Nick. I've known him for years. So he's a good guy.
You couldn't talk about this for a very long time. What was the turning point for you?
The real turning point was my retirement in 1993 from the Air Force. I could talk about it. There's one person I could talk to about it. I had a lifeline that was sent to me. And that was 6 months after the incident. It was Lieutenant Colonel Highbush, and he took over Major Zickler, Squadron Commander, and called me in his office 2 days after he was there. And I thought I had to brief him on, security police plans and stuff like that. And I went up there and he shut the doors and said, get 2 cups of coffee and sit down. And he said, I'm Chuck Highbush. He said, I'm your lifeline. I said, what?
So you knew all about it.
Well, yeah, he worked security police intelligence, no such place, by the way, at the headquarters Air Force. And he came directly from the Pentagon there. And he says, I read your initial statement at the OSI building, the 4 pages. He says, I just want you to know you can talk to me anytime. And he did do that throughout my whole career, whether we're in Germany or wherever we're at. He would either come down and see me, or I would go see him, or whatever. So I did have that all the way up to 93. Mm-hmm. But the real turning point was when I got ready to retire, and Chuck Hall, Colonel Hall, told me that he retired a couple of years earlier. He said, whatever you do when you get an NDA on your retirement, non-disclosure agreement, he says, make sure that, see if it has Bentwaters and Woodbridge on there. I said, okay. So I read my NDA at the personnel, and I'm out processing, and it has all the SAP stuff, special access programs, nuclear weapons, blah, 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 all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
All stuff that you can't hear and I can't talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, there's nothing on here about Woodbridge or Bentwaters. And they sent a message off to the I'll take care of it, to headquarters, and they asked about if anything was classified with it. And 2 days later, I get a call from personnel, and I remember I'm trying to retire.
Right.
So 2 days later, waiting, I get a call to come on personnel. He says, I got a really strange message, Jim. The sergeant is telling me. So what do you mean? He says, it says, nothing classified happened on those dates in question, so therefore nothing is classified at those bases. What does that mean? And I says, can I get a copy of that?
Yeah.
And he gave me a copy. So that's why we're talking about it. Because up to that point, everything was treated as top secret.
So obviously you had your memories of all of that. You had someone you could talk to about it, but you did end up going under hypnosis.
Yes.
That kind of opened a whole different...
Well, I didn't go to hypnosis for anything with ufology or the incident. I was having trouble sleeping at night. I know PTSD.
Yeah.
I mean, and it got down to the point where I was only having 2 hours a night, and you cannot maintain working. I was working as if I had a vice president job at the time, and
you feel like you're drunk all the time. It's crazy.
Yeah, and you can't remember what you did 2 minutes ago. It's horrible. So I went to my MD, and she was helpful. I mean, she said, I can't do nothing. She says, but I can refer you to a psychiatrist, and maybe we can talk about it, because there must be something that's causing it in your past. Okay. So she scheduled a psychiatrist, and which I was a little freaked out about, because I always thought people go to psychiatrists are crazy. Anyway, I went there for the disorder, and maybe a month we were talking. And actually, she was sort of nice talking to her. She says, I'd like to try something with you. She says, I would like to try a hypnosis session and see what is in your past that's causing this issue with sleep. I said, okay. I was a little freaked out. I'm thinking, oh man, I don't think I was abused as a child or something. I was thinking all kinds of stuff. Yeah, I was thinking all kinds of stuff. And anyway, we do, there's 2 sessions, 2 hours apiece. This one was, there was 4 hours total. Only 2 minutes has ever been made public of that. But anyway, we do the first session, and part of it was to forget whatever was done during the session. So, and she was sitting with her jaw down to the table after, and says, we need to have another session. We need to talk about Woodbridge. I said, oh my God, is that what I was talking about? And she said, yes. So I did the second session. I had never listened to the hypnosis.
You haven't?
No. I tried it hundreds of times. I can't do it. And so my co-author, Gary Osborne, very patient man, he watched the whole thing, transcribed it, and then he read it to me.
So you know what you said. You just
now when he started reading it to him, oh no, those are things in my dreams. Everything's starting to connect, including the binary as mentioned.
The binary code, the numbers you were getting.
Yeah, I didn't even know. Like, I did a book project with Linda Mullenhow back in '95 or something like that, '96.
She's the first person that made me aware of your case.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I can't remember the book. Glimpses of something. I can't remember the book. Okay. And anyway, in there, I'm reading some of the transcripts. First time I read part of the she had transcribed it too, but I never read the whole thing that was in the book. And it talked about binary code and all that. All right, I didn't know what that was, and all kinds of fascinating stuff. Then when the binary came out 30 years later, because I thought I was having a trauma situation, I was embarrassed by it. And it was discovered actually by Linda Mullenhow at this film shoot in Phoenix with Ancient Aliens we were doing, and Aaron Burroughs. And because I was flipping back, they asked me for a date in the middle of the film. I was looking for a date, and I went back too far. And everybody, what is that? I said, I might as well tell them about I thought my mental breakdown at the time, afterwards. I said, well, this is what happened. I said, I started writing these down. I says, it's got to be because of the trauma. And Linda,
it was all like zeros and
ones and zeros.
And
then Linda goes, that's binary code. I went, I've heard that before. I heard it from her. It was in that book, from the transcribed.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know what. That's when the first time I made the connection. And it was through a lot of prodding by her and Burroughs to put it out. I wasn't going to.
Well, in case anybody listening doesn't know the whole story, after your sighting in Rendlesham Forest, you just got was it like a vision? These numbers were coming to you, and you scribbled them down
I went
in
home.
your journal.
Yeah. Yes, I went home, and I couldn't sleep, and I tried all day, and anywhere from maybe around 12, 1 o'clock at night, I get up, and like I'm having trouble sleeping, so I make a pot of coffee. That's a good one. I'm not going to sleep anyway. Might as well enjoy myself. And I sit down at the dining room table. This is in the UK when I lived there, and I started doubting a lot of things that I seen that day. It was a long, long day. And so I got the notebook out, and I'm looking at my notes. I'm looking at my sketches, my stuff like that. And I could see through my mind's eye those ones and zeros in front of me. And I said, I think I can write it down. So I flipped to the back, give me some open writing. And I started writing, 1 0 0 0 1 1 1 1 0 1. I started writing those down. And when I did it started to feel better. And I said, oh, okay, so I could do this. I was writing down pages. And then, my pen stopped. Everybody has a pen that doesn't work, because you left it in the drawer. And I'm trying to find a pen that works. And I find another one, and I was panicking. And I got to the point, I started right where I left off. I started writing these ones and zeros down. And I got to a point, it was actually 16 pages later.
Got my hand hurt.
I couldn't write anymore.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see it in my mind's eye. And I said, oh my God, I dodged a bullet here, because up to that point, I thought I had to go to the base hospital. How am I going to explain this? I'm seeing ones and zeros. I had an encounter with a craft unknown origin earlier. This is not going to go well.
Yeah.
You would have lost my clearance, the weapons. They would have been a career ender. Because it sounds crazy. It is crazy.
Have you ever figured out what that code is?
Yes.
You have?
Mm-hmm. Partially. Not 100%. We're working on it. It's pretty close. Gary Osborne, he's been on the research team for 10 years, and he's now my co-author, likely choice. He was a skeptic for the first 5. That's good. That's the way you want him.
I was going to say, that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm, it's a good thing. And I left him alone when he deciphered everything. He went back through and he did a project on it. And anyway, on May 26th this year, there was a discovery that's made in there. It's called a fine constant structure. Okay? And that's what this number is. What that means is, like normally we work as human beings on a decimal points over the 6. Wherever that is, I don't know, 100,000 or whatever it is. And that's how, and it was first developed by Carl Sagan. He says if we were contacted by any higher intelligence, it would have this fine structured content in it. Okay? That's a fact. And it would probably be a 7 or 8 digits over. That means they're superhuman beings. They're super smart. And the thing with the Rendlesham code, the code within the code, it goes over 14 digits. So whoever devised that code was not just very smart. They were probably smart enough for interdimensional travel and a lot more.
And they gave you the code. What did they think you should do with it? I wonder.
That's a big question. I don't know. Maybe it's maybe we should have wrote this book. I don't know. That's remains to be seen.
You've said a couple things that are interesting to me, because I get both of them, but they also seem slightly contradictory. And I
talk that way. Let's see.
Because I know I've heard you say that you don't necessarily feel like you were chosen, that maybe the craft wasn't even supposed to land in that specific point,
mm-hmm.
But you also don't really believe in coincidences.
Well, the writing of this book, We just stopped the coincidence. What would happen is there's certain things we didn't want out that were made public, and then public ignored them, and nothing happened. And then another thing would happen with the book. It built on one thing from another. That's what happened. And then we kept calling them coincidences, all of them. And I think somewhere around 50 of them we stopped.
I get it.
It's by design.
Yeah.
What by who? I don't know. But whatever's going on here, maybe that is the purpose why this book has to be out.
Right.
Gary has some interesting thoughts on it. I mean, Gary gets into more of the fantastic stuff. I mean, when he makes theories up. I mean, but I don't know. I'm more of a on a ground level.
A little bit more of the science side of it.
Well, yeah. I mean, okay, prove this, prove that. He's doing it. Matter of fact, the epilogue in the Rendlesham Enigma is for the next book 2, and that's all about the code and the discoveries.
You also saw, like, I guess you call them hieroglyphics on the craft. Have you seen those anywhere else around the world?
Yes.
Yeah.
There was a discovery made in 2006. It was released, I guess, this person named Bruni back in 1803. But the discovery was in 2006.
Okay.
In 1803, they discovered a submersible craft of some kind, and they had drawings on it and pictorial glyphs. And this is in Japan from 1803. And they're not exactly the same, but they're in the same family. So that's interesting. Then, as we post this stuff, on the internet, we get a lot of help from people. They find stuff. And another find was a Hopi Kachina doll that has one of the glyphs on the front of it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. So there's evidence of this around in other places, but thank God I have a really interesting public that will send me stuff, about Rendlesham.
Yeah, we're all in this together. Let's all research together.
And some of the stuff is just really head scratcher stuff, and then some stuff isn't.
You're one of I think you're the only person I know of that's had an encounter where you touched a craft, and I have to believe they let you do that.
They let me do a lot. I tell you what, it's not hostile. Whatever this phenomenon is, it's not hostile. I'm living proof of it right now here. Yeah. So and when all the light dissipated and that, it was opaque black craft, and even the coloring that was running through it stopped. It allowed me to touch it multiple times. I mean, from trying to push it because I didn't know how it was it was above the forest floor, but the light somehow wasn't light. I mean, it was obvious technology that could make it stand there. It would move, and so.
What advice do you have for other contactees?
Stick to the facts. Don't deviate from them. It's tempting at times, but don't do that. Stick to the facts on it. And I'll tell you another thing that you can't help, and I think it's because we all have cameras on us now. But I'll tell you what, I only took those pictures, from my crash kit up to the forest entrance. I used them all. But you know what? I don't think I would have used a camera after I was up there. I was just too fascinated by what was going on. And I think that happens to other people, too. I mean, all of a sudden you watch what's going on, and maybe lights in the sky, and it's really odd. And the last thing you do is pull a camera out.
Right.
You're just like, I don't want to take my eyes off this.
But thank God you have witnesses. Thank God that didn't happen to you alone. That would just give me so much comfort.
Yeah, pretty well freaked out the working flight. I mean, Sergeant Chandler, who was at the East Gate, my flight chief from Delaware, when I went back to turn a weapon, and I said, "Oh, you won't believe this! I seen everything." I said, "Oh man!"
Were you just like, "Thank you"?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't even thinking anybody doubted me. I never did. As a matter of fact, the Air Force never did.
Wow, that's great. Because you know what a lot of people go through when they say that they've seen craft.
I'll tell you what, the rough part is the public. It's not the Air Force. The Air Force, I was on duty. I mean, my credentials were established where I went. I had top secret clearance. Critical naval base. No, you don't do stuff like that.
What's next for you?
Well, I want to finish book 2. I only got 2 chapters, I think, to do, and I think Gary's going to do the bulk of it. and thank God for that, because I don't really understand it all. But the big thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take any proceeds we get from this book. Up to this point, it's all been given to charity, but for books and honorariums. But this time, I think we're going to take a portion of it, at least my portion, and we're going to visit the rest of these coordinate sites. We think it's essential because there's some factors that happen. We've been to them. So
coordinate sites, help me understand.
The binary code.
Okay.
That's what they are. They're coordinate sites.
They're coordinates. They're physical places.
Yes, they are physical places. And you know what's the amazing thing about this discoveries? Everything's with this binary is down to the inch. It's not like globally down to the inch. I don't know. How's that happen?
What are you going to find, I wonder?
Well, we're hoping to find the same thing we found the first two. We're researching it.
Okay.
We'll leave it like that.
All right. Little tease there.
No, it's not the tease, but I want to make sure. I figure after three of them, they'll be accurate. Then we can say, okay, this is what we found at 3 sites.
Oh, God, I can't wait to find out.
Hey, we want it to be as accurate as possible. I mean,
yeah.
I don't want to try to lead you or anything like that. That's just that's wrong.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I think we all appreciate, again, that honesty and integrity is so important. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.